On August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon appeared on television screens across America. He announced a decision that would permanently alter the global financial system. The United States would no longer exchange dollars for gold. With those words, a promise made to every nation on earth was broken forever. For nearly 3 decades, the world had trusted America to back its currency with gold. Countries held dollars because they believed those dollars represented real, physical wealth stored in American vaults. That trust vanished in a single evening broadcast. What forced the most powerful nation on earth to break its word? Why did Nixon close the gold window? And what happened to global finance afterward? The answers reveal how governments can reshape economic reality overnight, and why the money in your pocket works completely differently than your grandparents understood. Stay until the end, because the consequences of that Sunday evening announcement continue to affect your savings, your purchasing power, and your financial future more than 50 years later. To understand what Nixon destroyed, you must first understand what existed before. In July 1944, delegates from 44 nations gathered at a resort in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. World War II was ending, and leaders needed to rebuild the shattered global economy. They created a new monetary system designed to prevent the chaos that followed World War I. The Bretton Woods Agreement established the United States dollar as the world's reserve currency. Every other currency would be pegged to the dollar at fixed exchange rates. The dollar itself would be pegged to gold at exactly 35 per ounce. Any foreign government could exchange its dollars for American gold at this guaranteed rate. This system worked because America held most of the world's gold. After World War II, the United States possessed approximately 20,000 tons of gold, representing nearly 70% of global reserves. Fort Knox overflowed with golden treasure. No other nation came close to matching this wealth. The arrangement created unprecedented stability. Businesses could plan international trade without worrying about currency fluctuations. Countries could hold dollars with complete confidence. The American promise to exchange those dollars for gold made the system trustworthy and reliable for everyone involved. But the system contained a fatal flaw that few recognized initially. America needed to supply the world with dollars for international trade to function properly. This meant running trade deficits, spending more abroad than it earned. Those dollars accumulated in foreign hands, representing potential claims on American gold. Throughout the 1950s, the system functioned smoothly. America remained economically dominant, and foreign dollar holdings stayed manageable. But the 1960s brought dramatic changes that would strain the arrangement beyond its breaking point. President Lyndon Johnson launched expensive domestic programs called the Great Society. Simultaneously, the Vietnam War consumed billions of dollars in military spending. America printed money to fund both guns and butter without raising taxes sufficiently to cover the costs. Foreign nations watched American spending with growing concern. They saw dollars flooding the world while American gold reserves shrank. Simple mathematics revealed the problem. More dollar claims existed than gold to back them. The promise was becoming impossible to keep. France, under President Charles de Gaulle, became the most vocal critic. De Gaulle accused America of exploiting its privileged position. He called it an exorbitant privilege that allowed Americans to buy real goods with printed paper. France began aggressively converting its dollars to gold, demanding America honor its commitment. Other nations followed France's lead. The gold drain accelerated through the late 1960s. American reserves fell from over 20,000 tons to barely 8,000 tons. At this rate, the vaults would empty completely within years. Something had to change before the gold disappeared entirely. By 1971, the situation had become critical. Foreign governments held over $50 billion, while American gold reserves could only cover about $10 billion at the official exchange rate. Britain requested a massive gold withdrawal, signaling that major allies had lost confidence in American promises. Nixon faced an impossible choice. He could raise interest rates dramatically to defend the dollar, triggering a recession and unemployment. He could devalue the dollar against gold, admitting American weakness to the world, or he could simply refuse to honor the commitment entirely. On Friday, August 13, 1971, Nixon summoned his top economic advisors to Camp David. Treasury Secretary John Connally led the discussions alongside Federal Reserve Chairman Arthur Burns and other key officials. The meeting remained completely secret to prevent market panic. Connally argued forcefully for closing the gold window permanently. He dismissed concerns about breaking international commitments. When asked about foreign reactions, Connally reportedly said, "The dollar is our currency, but their problem." This attitude would define American monetary policy for decades. The advisors debated through the weekend. Some worried about destroying the international monetary system America had built. Others feared inflation and currency chaos without the discipline of gold backing. Burns expressed reservations but ultimately supported the decision. Nixon made his choice. On Sunday evening, August 15, he preempted the popular television show Bonanza to address the nation. He announced what he called a new economic policy. The United States would temporarily suspend the convertibility of dollars into gold. Temporary would become permanent. Nixon framed the announcement as defending American interests against international speculators. He blamed foreign governments for currency manipulation while ignoring decades of American overspending. The speech included wage and price controls to combat the inflation his policies would ultimately worsen. Global markets reacted with shock and confusion. The Tokyo Stock Exchange suspended trading. European markets scrambled to understand the implications. Currency traders faced a world without fixed exchange rates for the first time in memory. The immediate aftermath seemed manageable. American exports became more competitive as the dollar weakened. Inflation initially moderated due to the wage and price controls Nixon imposed. Politicians celebrated escaping the gold constraint that limited their spending ambitions. But the controls masked deeper problems building within the system. By removing gold backing, Nixon eliminated the primary restraint on government money creation. Politicians could now spend freely and print money to cover deficits. The temptation proved irresistible for every administration that followed. Foreign governments scrambled to create new arrangements. The Smithsonian Agreement attempted to establish new fixed exchange rates without gold backing. This system collapsed within 2 years. By 1973, major currencies floated freely against each other for the first time. The consequences of Nixon's decision unfolded across decades. The 1970s brought severe inflation that devastated savings and destabilized economies. Oil prices quadrupled partly because oil-producing nations demanded compensation for declining dollar value. The comfortable stability of the post-war era ended permanently. Government debt exploded without gold discipline constraining spending. The United States national debt stood around $400 billion in 1971. Today it exceeds $34 trillion. This expansion would have been mathematically impossible under a gold-backed system where money creation required equivalent gold reserves. Inflation became a permanent feature of economic life. Before 1971, periods of inflation were followed by periods of stable or falling prices. After Nixon closed the gold window, prices only moved upward. A dollar from 1971 purchases less than 15 cents worth of goods today. The financial industry transformed dramatically. Floating exchange rates created opportunities for currency speculation that previously did not exist. Wall Street developed complex financial instruments to hedge against currency and interest rate risks. Banking became more profitable, but also more dangerous. Currency crises became regular occurrences. The Latin American debt crisis of the 1980s, the Asian financial crisis of 1997, and numerous other collapses followed patterns enabled by fiat currency systems. Countries discovered that money without gold backing could lose value rapidly and unpredictably. The winners of the new system were governments and large financial institutions. Politicians gained unlimited spending power constrained only by inflation tolerance. Banks profited from the complexity that floating currencies and inflation created. Ordinary savers watched their purchasing power erode year after year. Central banks became the most powerful economic institutions on earth. Without gold limiting money creation, Federal Reserve decisions shaped global prosperity and suffering. The wealth of nations rose and fell based on monetary policy choices made by unelected officials. Some observers predicted these problems from the beginning. Economists who supported gold backing warned that fiat currency would eventually fail. Their warnings went unheeded as short-term political convenience trumped long-term stability. Each crisis was addressed with more money printing rather than fundamental reform. Today, growing skepticism about fiat currency drives interest in alternatives. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies emerged partly as responses to unlimited government money creation. Central banks worldwide buy gold at record rates, hedging against the system they operate. These movements suggest that Nixon's solution may face its own reckoning. The lessons of 1971 remain relevant for everyone managing money today. Governments will always choose short-term convenience over long-term stability when given the power to print currency. Inflation is not accidental, but built into systems where money creation faces no physical constraints. Assets that cannot be printed, like gold and land, preserve wealth across generations better than paper currency. Understanding what Nixon did helps explain why your grandparents could buy houses on single incomes, while today's families struggle despite two earners. The money changed fundamentally that August evening. The promise was broken, and ordinary people continue paying the price. The Nixon shock transformed global finance in ways that continue affecting every person on Earth. From that single decision came inflation, debt explosion, currency crisis, and the financial complexity that defines modern economies. Understanding this history helps you protect your wealth in a system designed to slowly transfer it elsewhere. If this breakdown helped you understand how modern money really works, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We explore the hidden financial forces that shape your economic reality, the stories that explain why the system works against ordinary savers. Share this video with someone who deserves to know the truth about money. Drop a comment telling us whether you think gold-backed currency should return. Your engagement helps us continue bringing important financial history to light.